Another friction point during during clashes between Palestinian youth and Israeli soldiers that have erupted from the Palestinian prisoner hunger strike has been around Hawara checkpoint near Nablus. In late February, Defense for Children International Palestine documented a case of a 17-year-old that was arrested by soldiers, and then after his arrest, while transferring him to the jeep, he was severely beaten. He had his nose broken, he had contusions all over his arm. And such violence is typical and systematic against children during arrest, interrogation, and pretrial detention. And often what we find is a lot of children that have been suspected of throwing stones. In over 50% of the cases that Defense for Children International documents, they're usually arrested later on, not at the scene, during nighttime raids that occur usually between the hours of 1 a.m. and 5 a.m. Usually those raids tend to be very traumatic experience for the children. They're dragged out of their homes in the middle of the night. They're beaten up. They're usually roughed up by soldiers. According to the evidence we've documented, in at least 79% of the cases, children are subjected to some form of physical violence during the arrest process, or during the interrogation, or during their pretrial detention. In fact, also in late February, Defense for Children International submitted a complaint against Israeli police interrogators who roughed up two boys during the interrogation, including hitting one of the boys with a stick on his face to try and get them to confess against, on suspicion of stone throwing. And in fact, based on the information that we collect, most children are, in 60% of cases, children are arrested on suspicion of stone throwing, and there's almost in 70% of the cases, the violence that occurs is intended to get a coerced confession out of them, so that they could be taken to military court and sentenced. And this is where our advocacy work really comes into play. Not only do we represent a lot of these cases in court and try to get the best deals for these children and try to get them out of the Israeli military detention system, but it's also very important for us to advocate on their behalf, to advocate against nighttime raids. In Israel, for children, for Israeli children living in settlements in the West Bank, usually they're given a summons to appear at a police station the following day with their parents. Those rights do not apply to Palestinian children who, like all Palestinians living in the occupied West Bank, are subject to military rule. Another recommendation we give is that all interrogations be audiovisually recorded, and we also ask that a parent be present during the interrogation, and additionally that the child is actually informed of their rights, including their right to remain silent and not incriminate themselves. But in 95% of the cases that Defense for Children International documented, kids were not advised of their rights. Kids seldom have a parent present, if ever, during the interrogation. And as of now, there's no requirement that any interrogation be audio or visually recorded.